Welcome back to another week of Limbus Company, patch note analysis, and an overview of the breakdown of the newest identity, Warp Yisung. Alongside a couple things from the patch notes, notably the changes being made to the Limbus Pass next season, and overall the updates that are going to be included in the very final update of Season 2. Let's get right into the new unit.
Limbus 컴퍼니. 이 시간에 앉아서 갈 수 있다는 것만으로 작지 않은 행운이여. 조금 잘 수 있겠군. 근래에는 새로 입사한 사우들에게 우리 회사를 가르치는 일을 부탁받았어. 제법 즐거웠지. 열차를 정리하는 것보다 더욱. 어쩌면 나는 누군가를 가르치는 데 재능이 있었을지도 모르. 혹은 흥미라던가. 정리는 끝났어. 다음 정리까지는 좀 잠들고 싶군.
Now, as you may have noticed, Warp Yisung had 4 animations going on in that trailer. Now, this is not specified, but it's likely due to the fact that his skill 3 has 2 very different animations based on the charge count used. But we'll get that in time. This is a rather unique W Corp unit, as instead of being focused on insane amounts of damage, it seems to be focused on insane amounts of rupture, which is a minor focus of the W Corp stuff, and it's frankly, it was shocking that they didn't focus on it much before this point. I'm sure he's still gonna have, insane damage output, but let's go into the breakdown of exactly how he builds up charge, spends charge, and of course inflicts his insane rupture. As per usual, most of his skills are based on the warp cards for Ruina, namely his skill 2 Energy Cycle and his skill 3 Dimensional Rift, and his skill 1 Dimensional Slit isn't one-to-one with anything from Ruina. It's still pretty much in the same ballpark. Now this skill 1, Dimensional Slit, is a 1-coin/sloth skill. On use, gain charge count. At a certain amount of charge count, gain coin power. Of course, it's only 1 coin, so it's exactly the same effect as gaining base power here. But on hit, he gains even more charge count and inflicts a little bit of rupture. Once again, it's a pretty generic skill 1. Very, similar to, say, Warp Dawn skill 1. You just kind of use it to gain a little bit of charge count when you don't have anything else to use. Maybe it'll give more charge count than the skill 2, which will mean it's pretty good to use, early on to build up the charge count. But, of course, as you really expect from charge units, the skill 1 is nothing special. No rupture count on the skill 1's a little unfortunate too, since, that's always a very good thing to see. It allows you to just keep rupture count going decently. But he still seems to have plenty of rupture count. Looking at his skill 2, Energy Cycle, it's a 2-coin Pierce Gluttony skill. On use, gains charge count once again at X plus charge count coin power plus Y, although there are 2 coins this time, so the coin power makes a little more sense. Coin power being on the skill 1 is mostly just, for consistency between the 3 skills. This one inflicts a little bit of bind next turn with the first coin, and the second coin inflicts rupture, and at a certain amount of charge count, most likely the same amount of charge count that you need to be to gain the coin power, you inflict additional rupture and rupture count. This seems to be his main way of inflicting rupture/rupture count beyond his skill 3, of course. It's going to be the one you're going to have this more often than his skill 3 in most situations. The little bit of bind is nice. It shouldn't matter too much, but it definitely seems like this unit has some minor speed synergy, likely because you're going to want him to be fast in order to inflict rupture count before everything else goes, if he will be a consistent rupture count inflictor, and he very well might be. Of course, we're going to need to look at his skill 3 to get a good sense of that. Dimensional Rift. 3-coin Gloom Pierce skill. Now, a very interesting name for the skill 3 because it's based on a 2-cost from Runa instead of, a 3-cost like something like Rip Space was, or being something new like DDEDR was for Ryoshu. Now, on use at X minus charge count, consume Y charge count to gain coin power. So if you don't have enough, and then the next part says consume charge count to gain Y coin power. So there's 2 variations of the skill. Either you don't have enough charge count, or you do have enough charge count. If you don't have enough charge count, you still spend a certain amount of charge count and gain coin power, but assumably less than if you have enough charge count. And if you do have enough charge count, you, then consume that much charge count to gain, assumably, more coin power. And then before attack, if charge count was consumed, inflict plus Y rupture count. chances are this will be like a +3 rupture count, +4 rupture count, something like that. Because this will make it so that if you do spend the charge count on the skill 3, it's going to be net positive on the rupture count, which will be very good for building up rupture, as all 3 of the coins inflict rupture potency. On heads hit for the first 2, you need heads hit for inflict rupture on skill on coin 1, heads hit inflict rupture on coin 2, but then coin 3, inflict X rupture for every Y charge count consumed by the skill. This means that it'll maybe something like maybe 1 rupture for every 2 charge count, perhaps, something like that, or maybe it'll be 1 for 1, although that would be insane, but there's probably going to be a cap, like, say, max of, like, 10 rupture or something. If so, this guy's going to be great for rupture potency, especially if you combine something like this with, say, the battery and mirror dungeons, because each of these rupture inflictors will just be even more. But that's not all for the final coin of Dimensional Rift, because if the skill consumed X charge count upon use, assumably if you get the stronger variation of the skill by spending that much charge count, inflict Dimensional Rift, which is basically delayed charge or rupture count. It's also inflicted by the, of course, Dimensional Shredder Ego is the one that both Yisung and Honglu has. And it just means that however Dimensional Rift inflicts, that's how much rupture count they gain next turn. And also on kill with the third coin, you gain charge barrier. It's a pretty minor effect for that last part. The charge barrier is nice to get, that's for sure, but you need to kill with the third coin specifically. Now, being only a 3 coin skill 3 on a warp unit, this is probably going to be pretty strong. It may be, like, pretty awful, like, without the charge count, but getting in, like, insane amounts of coin power if you do have the charge count. Or maybe it'll just be kind of like average coin power otherwise. It would be nice to get a warp unit that wasn't, like, an incomplete damage nuke, and this one is Pierce instead of Slash, so it's a little different in those regards, but chances are he's still gonna have very strong damage. This is Yisong's final identity of, well, Yisong's season, so it definitely makes sense that they try and make this a little strong. Moving on to the defensive skill, Hollow Dimension gains base power based on charge count, so it probably is going to be a pretty weak roll by default, but it gains, you know, a lot of base power per charge count, making it rather unique as evades go, assuming that is how it works. It may be a minor effect, who knows. But then, on a successful evade, plus X potency when applying Rupture for the first time with a skill effect next turn. Now this is on evade, so if you say evade like a 4 coin attack, this will trigger 4 times. Chances are there'll be a cap to this, like a max 3 or something, but this just means that the next time you inflict Rupture next turn, you just do more potency. This might end up being like a different status effect. This might be something that it doesn't have a status effect for, it'll just be something that the game remembers and inflicts. But this is definitely very interesting. It's kind of like the opposite of, say, like the Boatworks, like, defensive skills, where it gives them Rupture Protection. This one gives them Rupture Offense from evasions. Now, the normal passive is Emptied Thought. Turn end, gain haste per charge count on self next turn. This is what I was referring to earlier when I said he's got a little bit of haste synergy. It'll probably be something similar to the haste gained by, say, Rhino Mersault. Maybe, like, gain 1 haste per 5 charge count to a max of 10. Possibly even more at higher upside levels. And it just kind of makes sure that he goes relatively early on in the turn, just in order to be, say, the person who sets up the Rupture count. And then allows all his teammates to focus on the Rupture potency side of things, while Yusung himself does still have plenty of Rupture potency. And also, if this unit's skill consumed charge count, apply Charge Barrier to one ally with the lowest HP percentage. Now, the only skill he has that consumes charge count is his skill 3, and his Dimension Shredder may, I think, also spend some charge count. Yeah, it spends charge count too, so you also could use his Dimension Shredder as a way to spend some charge count, as well as just triggering this passive, giving some charge barrier, and of course Dimensional Shredder will make it so you kind of semi-burst the Rupture on the target, up to 5 count. It's not quite to the level of, say, Sinking Deluge, but, you know, like a minor Rupture Deluge. And then the Sport passive, Cleanup Demonstration, will now have the highest charge count, deals more damage to targets with Rupture based on Rupture on target. Potentially, like, say, a 1% more damage per Rupture on target to a max of 20. You know, it's a nice support passive. Chances are you're not going to be running it too often, because it would have to be a support passive for a team that's using Charge and Rupture, and, you know, this unit seems to be the best combination of Charge and Rupture yet. But that's all for Warp Yi-Sung. Overall, seems like a pretty interesting unit. He's definitely differentiating himself from the Warp units, which is good. It would be kind of lame to just get a repeat of Warp Dawn, Warp Ryoshu. And it definitely seems to be fitting Dimension Shredder pretty well. A little bit odd to get a unit that's trying to focus on, using Dimension Shredder, aka the ego that isn't Sun Tower, the focused ego of this season, for the unit that is supposed to be the final unit of the season. But it's nice to get a little bit more synergy to Dimension Shredder either way. But now, we're going to move on to the patch notes side of thing, starting out with the information on the changes being made to the Season 3 Battle Pass. So with the November 16th update, just stating that it's the week after this update, of course. This update is just going to be patches, effectively. The new Battle Pass is going to be released alongside the new season, and so they're making a few changes to it. The max Battle Pass level is being increased from 60 to 120. This means that you'll need to get twice the amount of Battle Pass experience in order to max out the level. Although, given, stuff like Mirror Dungeon 2 hard existing now, and just Mirror Dungeon 2 existing in general, this really shouldn't be too big of an issue by any means. The Battle Pass price, the number of resources gained, and remains the exact same. It'll just be spread out a little bit more. You'll still gain, it'll still cost 300 lunacy per level, so it'll be even more expensive if you want to, spend lunacy to max it out early. However, it's pretty easy to grind Mirror Dungeon 2 to just gain a stupid amount of levels, so I don't really think you should need to do that too much. So it's being changed in order to increase the rate at which rewards can be acquired. This way, it'll just take longer for you to get everything, although it still probably may take shorter than, if it was still, pre-Season 2, that degree of, I need to stop saying, I lost my train of thought with that, but, it'll still probably be faster overall. Now, in order to bridge the gap, they're increasing it from 60 to 120. I was expecting this change. I was expecting it to be something similar to this. This'll work well. It'll take some time to get this stuff. But you still gain the same amount of resources on average. So there's no need to worry there. Next change they're making, changing regarding the max pass rewards. So what they're doing is, whenever you go beyond the max level of the battle pass, you gain nominal ego shard crates. Now beforehand, if you hadn't purchased the actual paid pass before, you started building that up, you'd effectively lose any of the paid rewards you would have gotten from going past the max level. They're changing now, so when you do buy the battle pass, you'll just gain all the nominal ego shard crates you would have gotten from the paid track beyond level 60. So that it doesn't seem to disincentivize you if you want to buy a pass later on. Maybe you're not certain on whether or not you want it until later down the line. So this way, there's going to be no negatives to waiting to buy it. Also, new package being added to the game for 2,700 paid lunacy. You can purchase 10 Limbus pass levels and a special banner. Now, this is not buying the pass itself. That's what it's saying down there in the orange text. It's just buying 10 levels for effectively a discount of 300 lunacy. It's not the best thing, and the idea of you're receiving a special banner for, spending this for buying 10 levels seems kind of lame, that's for sure. We'll have to see, though. Maybe it's, nothing special. And here we have the actual specifics. For the first two parts of the Battle Pass, it'll still be level 1 to 20, level 20 to 40, and then the remaining 80 levels are going to be on the third part of the update. What this means is that, well, the actual increase is only really applying to the third part. So there's probably still going to be, 2 egos from level 1 to level 20, 2 egos from level 20 to level 40, but also probably 2 egos, maybe a little more this time for levels 40 to level 120. So probably, say, level 80 you get an ego, level 120 you get an ego. That's assuming they only do 6 egos again. Because we are getting VAV egos here, we might get a couple more just for the sake of, gaining a couple VAV egos as soon as they're being released. But who can say? Now getting to the actual patches themselves. Maintenance is being at normal time this week, and it's stating that next week, this current week it's going to be normal time, but next week it's going to be 6 hours of maintenance. So effectively the maintenance is going to go from the daily reset all the way to the normal time of an update being released. So just make sure you do everything you wanted to before then. new target extraction for W Corp Yi-Song, so new identity, and of course, Walpurgis Night is ending. If you want any Walpurgis Night identities or egos, make sure you get them now, or else you're gonna have to wait 3 months before you'll be able to get them again. Although when you get them, when you're able to get them again, you'll be able to get them with shards. So if you don't feel like, risking it all in the gamble, then you can just wait for them. Major changes: added a confirmation window for exchanging ideality for something. This way, there's just a little additional check to make sure that you're certain you want to exchange ideality for something. This is, of course, being added in response to the whole Walpurgis Night situation, where there were some very unlucky people who had to use ideality to get stuff. Which was, statistically speaking, that shouldn't happen too often, but some people just ended up with horrible luck. Lot of bug fixes, changing some stuff for the shock centipede, specifically the shock centipede from the from Refraction Railway 2. The passes were slightly wrong. They're just changing the description so that it will function the exact same, but it just doesn't display wrong now. Fix an issue where, identity of text illustrations being wrong, manager levels being... There's nothing too, notable here. Second effective artistic sense not activating properly is funny. That would just give you, what did it do? It just did more, it just made it so that sinking did better damage against abnormalities that resisted gloom. That's all it did. A lot of other random patches here. I'm not going to go over all of them here. Just a lot of decent bug fixes. Some of them are funny, of course, like an issue where in Focus Encounters, Grand Welcome gave an abnormally high amount of resources upon enemy kill. I don't think I've noticed this, but that sounds very funny. Apparently they're changing Moulinet's description, which is 7 Yi-Song Skill 3, just to be a little more clear as to what it does. And one known issue that they're not patching, they're going to be patching next week, is how apparently Charred Disc is bugged. Charred Disc is the ego gift that makes so when you kill an enemy with burn, their burn is transferred to another random enemy. It's not something that gets used too often, but for people that run burn teams, keep in mind that it's going to be bugged, and it possibly has been bugged for who knows how long. And of course, this week's patch, 300 lunacy. We love our lunacy. But that's all for the patch notes, and that's all for what we know of this week's upcoming update. It's the finale of Season 2, it would seem, and it means that join me back here same time next week, and we're going to be going over the patch notes for Season 3 proper. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.